Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast, Thursday, September 29th. I am putting the finishing touches right now on something that's been a pretty big topic since last Saturday, cornerback play. I have an in-depth video look at what I think is proper cornerback technique, and none of the video clips, I should remind you, are from last Saturday. Actually, from last year against Wake Forest. By the time you're listening to this, should be up at tigerillustrated.com, so check it out. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's P-A-R-H-A-M law.com.
Football season is grilling season, and Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio is South Carolina's premier source for the big three: Weber, Traeger, and Big Green Egg Grills. Blackstone Griddles, too. I'm Jack Oliver. Grill all your tailgate favorites to perfection with a premium gas, charcoal, or pellet grill, then top it all off with something sizzling from your Blackstone griddle. For grills, griddles, patio furniture, hot tubs, and saunas, shop in store or online at Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, Forest Drive in Columbia, and jackoliverpools.com.
I'm Josh Burrell, receiver and running back for the Florida State Seminoles. When I'm back home in the Midlands, I enjoy grilling and relaxing with my family, and we get everything we need from Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio.
Thanks, Josh. I'm Jack Oliver, and we proudly offer the Big Green Egg, Weber, and Traeger grills, Blackstone griddles, and beautiful patio furniture, too. We're located at 3303 Forest Drive in Columbia and online at jackoliverpools.com. And we deliver.
They're good people. Go see them today.
Celero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Celero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Celero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Celero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Celero at celerocommerce.com. That's C-E-L-E-R-O commerce.com. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham, Smith, and Archenhold. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Okay, to our conversation. Man, I remember back in 2004, my first season covering Clemson with the Charleston Post and Courier, Tye Hill being one of the first players that I got to know. He was always so personable and engaging back then, and it's been a thrill to catch up with him more recently. Okay, here we go. Really enjoyed this conversation. Okay, joined by former Tiger, former NFL player Tye Hill. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. All right, first of all, did you watch the Wake Forest game Saturday?
Of course I did.
Well, I am dying to know. I wish I was a fly on the wall during that 3.5 hours inside the house of any former cornerback. I need some expertise. I want to hear the play-by-play from you on what did you keep the language good or did you slip up some?
Well, it was definitely rated R. I had to kind of to try to tame myself. But I will say this. Other than previous years, I love the fact. First of all, my history and my background for when I played at Clemson, and when I played at Clemson, I didn't have it easy. I came out there day one as a starter. when I moved over from cornerback when I moved over from running back to cornerback. And not only that, I think Tommy Bowden did it on purpose to have an open practice that day, and saw me getting struggling really, really bad with some really good receivers that we had at Clemson, and it was never a question. Well, maybe it was because of how good the receivers were. They was like, no, Tye is just really that bad right now. You gotta learn. You're gonna have to learn. And I say that to say this. I love the fact that they're putting these guys in one-on-one situations. I love it because we are recruiting the best of the best. Give them opportunity to play against the best and be the best at their craft. And one thing that had really helped me was knowing that camera was going to be on me, and that I had to really home in and practice. Couldn't play around. I had to really, really get better at my technique, get better at being in man coverage position situations, and understanding that you're gonna have to. It's gonna be some bad that come with it until you learn it, but it's gonna be a lot of good once you master it. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I got. I wasn't really too hard on the corners watching the game because I love the fact that they were actually in one-on-one situations. And when you're in those one-on-one situations, it was one or two things that's going to happen. You're either going to get better at it or you're going to fold. And one thing I didn't see him folding. Wiggins, I thought, he had a couple pass interferences and he had a couple of touchdowns caught on him. And then I was thinking back to my time there, and I had a similar situation, probably not as much, but I did have some similar situations, and any man cover corner is going to have those type situations and those type nights. And you can't really dwell on that in the game, but after the game and preparation leading up to the next week, that's what you take to practice with you, and that's what you learn. You get better at. You want to get more deep ball action. I used to get a quarterback. Sometimes it would be Will Proctor, or it would be Cullen Harper, or it would be Treble Reeves. And I would grab a receiver and just getting used to getting some deep balls thrown at me. Because I know they was throwing at me. On the other side of me, when I first came over the corner, I had a freshman All-American that was at right corner, just had a phenomenal year the year before. You knew who they was throwing at, and it was going to be me. And John Lovett, who was my D coordinator at the time, wasn't going to change the defense. So I was going to be in a lot of man cover situations, And so for me, I think it's early in the season. What better time than to get? It's one thing to get that work in practice, but it's another thing to get that work in the game. Because you get that game experience of the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, and now you know how to handle it. Now you know how to be composed and come back and keep fighting, because you're gonna have to fight at corner. People always say, it's the hardest position to play. And they're not lying. I used to love it, though. I love the challenge. You got to get up for the challenge, because the attention to detail is going to be so much greater in practice the next week, because you don't want to have, if you're a dog and you're playing at Clemson, I feel like you don't want to keep having those type games, and you want to make sure you're proving the naysayers wrong. And being who they are, Clemson, and the possibility of, well, first off, they're playing in a top 10 matchup on Saturday night, 7:30, prime time, ABC. You got to be ready. You got to be up for that challenge. For me, I welcomed it. I loved it. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get out there. And once of course, you have a little jitters and you have a little butterflies. But once you get settled into the game, once you get, that first hit or get that first PBU, or, you really seeing how you match up against your opponent. It's good. It's game time now,
You mentioned your past at Clemson, and we remember it. I think quite a few people listening remember it, but that was a long time ago. We're old.
Long time ago.
So we might have to specify some of this. Okay, 02, you're a running back as a freshman, right?
Right.
Okay, and then you mentioned 03, you're converted to corner. You mentioned how many dudes they had at receiver on the other side. You mentioned, I guess, Justin Miller was the corner opposite you. Some of the receivers on the other side, Derek Hamilton, Kevin Youngblood, Aries Curry. Who am I missing?
Tony Elliott.
Tony.
Tony Elliott. Tony
How
was
could I
very
forget?
crafty. He was everybody had something good about what they did, and I'm not going to take nothing away from Tony too. Tony was a very crafty receiver. And of course, he was a big body. But those were the guys I remember that were in the mix. Oh, Curtis Bayham as well. Yep. But those were the guys that were in the mix. And then Chancey Stuckey came over the year after because I believe he was on offense in 03. But those guys all did something well. And it was kind of like not Blood, but Ham was like a mixture between Reese and Blood. And Kevin Youngblood, because he had the height and he had the speed. He was very, they called him the noodle. He was able to be limber and he was very, very shifty. And all of them could high point the ball. All of them played above the rim, and they all had different attributes that they carried about themselves, but they all were really good receivers,
Was the switch to corner, was that your idea or something the coaches came to you and proposed?
Well, it was actually my idea, I thought. But when I went in there that day, because I went in, I was like, I want to try a cornerback out. I went to Coach Bowden, because I was looking at guys, I forget his name, Terrence Newman. He was a top 5 pick to the Dallas Cowboys, and he was the Big 12 champion in the 100 and the 60. And I didn't want to give up track, and I knew Coach Bowden was because coming into the 03 season, I would have been like second on the depth chart at running back. I was going to be behind Yusuf Kelly at the time, and I knew Coach Bowden was going to be like, "Hey man, you're going to probably want to bulk up if you want to be able to be in the mix to carry the load, to start." Well, I wasn't really ready to give up track at the time. So I went to him like right after our bowl game. I believe we played in the Tangerine Bowl.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Yeah. Oof. I remember that. Yeah.
I won't say the score.
Yeah, let's not even talk about it. But those guys, so I went in the office and I told him, he said, "You'll start day one." I was like, "What?" I was like, well, he's playing. He's just happy that I went over there. The other part to the backdrop to that story also is John Lovett, who was our D coordinator at the time. He also recruited me while he was at Auburn and offered me while he was at Auburn to play cornerback. So he came in, he wanted me at cornerback day one, but I just had it in my mind I was a running back. But it seemed like everything started to line up at that time because I kind of knew like, okay, this is something different. I want to try it. I seen Justin Miller. He had a lot of success over there as a true freshman, and I was like, well, let me see what this is about. And I went over there, and the rest is history.
Did you go? Go ahead. Sorry.
But I do think the way Coach Bowden said it way too fast that I start over there. Like he said it way too fast. I don't know. It might have been something in the background. We never really talked about that either. Like, was they already planning to like come? Hey man, you might want to try this cornerback out. I guess I beat them to the punch. I don't know. Thinking about it years later.
So was this pre-spring? Did you go through a spring playing corner in 03? Or was this?
Yes, I went right over day one of spring practice. I was at corner.
So it was you and Justin.
Yes, me, Justin. I think Torrey Francis was just coming off an ACL injury. They had some contingencies now. If I didn't pan out, I believe they had another kid named Brian Staley that was in JUCO that they was looking to bring in. So if I didn't pan out, they had 2 other guys I believe that they were going to put in that place.
Another development that spring in 03 is some receivers coach whose name I'm guessing you had never heard, comes in to replace Rick Stockstill. What were your impressions? Can you remember the initial read on this Dabo Swinney guy who had been out of coaching for 2 years? He hadn't even been in the business, and now he's over there on Tommy's staff. What was your read on him at first?
Well, first off, I had loved Coach Rick Stockstill because he was the one that recruited me. He was the one that I developed a real close relationship with. I remember being devastated when we came in. I think we was in, I want to say we were in what they call mat drills. Oh, my God. So we was in mat drills, and I remember him, letting me know that he was leaving. And it devastated me, But moving forward, when Dabo came in with so much energy. I know his players, his receivers fell in love with him. I went against him every day. You kind of could see that he was being groomed to be a head coach, or you knew it was going to be in his future. But he came in, man. He put in work. That's why we have such a great relationship to this day, is because. Like, I remember those days. He was there when he came over to Clemson. That's when I went to cornerback. So, and him and remember Billy Napier, who's now the head coach at Florida. They made this DVD that they used to use as a recruiting tool about me, saying that would you believe this kid right here is a first rounder? Because it was really bad. It was a very good clinic tape on their end, but I couldn't believe they put me out there like that, because it was very, very bad on technique on my end. I was still learning the position, but he went from start to finish. It's like, well, this is what you could be, and so yeah, it was a great experience. We had very, very great battles with him, with his group, and our room, our DB room, and that really, like, when we went in the games, man, we wasn't even worried about who we were going up against, because we were seeing the best, all types of body types at practice every day, and that definitely helped me and shaped and molded me to get me ready for the NFL. Because when I went into the NFL, it was the exact same thing. I was not in no zone coverage. I was in 100% man most of the time. When things didn't break, when things broke down, and we wasn't getting there with zone pressure. I remember my coach at that time, who was Jim Haslett, who his daughter actually went to Clemson as well. He was like, "Bump it, we're playing straight man now." You know what I mean? So me personally, I love corners that are out there. First off, paying for that tuition. And making sure that they are getting they deserving that check they're getting on Sundays, because that's how I envision the corner. I envision these guys competing. Now, don't tell me, I'm not saying I don't like zone, because you got to switch it up, and you got to, every possession or every down don't call for a man cover. I mean, but being these guys, being out there, being in the mix, and that's how you get into the game too. You get in the game by being in the game, and now if your senses are not heightened because you're not in tune into the game, because you're probably out there in zone. Because that's how I feel like I think that's really like how certain kids become not even kids, but players get a little up and down, because they ain't really in tune in the game on every down. That's one thing I do like about our defense this year, is that I feel like we're playing a lot more man coverage, and they're trying to mix the coverages up. And you letting Wes Goodwin, he's allowing these kids to play, and I love it.
Can we go back to Stockstill for a minute?
Okay.
It's just kind of remarkable to hear a defensive player, even toward the guy who recruited you, saying he was devastated by the loss of an offensive assistant. Can you give some insight into how he resonated with so many players on both sides of the ball, how much of sort of a cultural force he was, just so beloved?
Oh, man, words can really describe it. I mean, everybody, even if he didn't recruit you, I think you loved him. He was a cool guy. He was down to earth. He can relate. for me personally, I built the relationship with him since the day I was being recruited by Clemson. He was the one recruiting me. Now, you know how that recruiting game go. Back then, he told me I could play whatever position I wanted to play. We'll put you at quarterback, But of course, he was playing the recruiting game. But he didn't just care about football. He cared about you as a person and as a man, and even as a student, and he wanted to make sure that he loved on you, and he did that to countless players from current. Well, when I was at current, and people that were there in the past, that were alumni. I talked to Rod Gardner from time to time because I see him up here. He lives in my area, and I remember we talking about him. And he loved him. There's a lot of guys that just, he was one of the coaches that will forever be beloved by, former alum that played in the era that when he was there. I was happy to see that they upset in Miami the other night.
I was about to say, you and Stock still have something in common now. Y'all both won at Miami.
You both won at Miami, I know when he couldn't believe I went over the cornerback, though. He was like, I can't believe you went over there, because he knew I did not want to play on that side of the ball. But at that, that was when I thought I was a running back at the time, But nah, Stockstill is definitely one of the guys. He was really responsible. One of the big responsible for that recruiting class, our 2001 class. And I think that class was a really, really good class. It turned out to be a really good class, after you seen the likes of the guys that went on to the NFL that was actually drafted. But in the beginning of that class, I was probably a 2-star, so I wasn't really the name of that class, but I played with a lot of great athletes. You talking about Roscoe Crosby, Aries Curry. And then, we had Tymir Zimmerman that was supposed to come. I wish he could have got in because he would have been a phenomenal talent, from the things he even done in his college career down at Newberry. But Ben Hall, there's so many guys, Kyle Browning, David Dunham. There was a lot of guys. But for my class, he was the one that was responsible for Eric Roscoe. He got in with Reese. I think Coach Scott was really recruiting Reese, but you know how that go. They double teamed him on that. But it was a lot of guys, Leroy Hill, Charles Bennett. It was a lot of guys, Charlie Whitehurst in that class that went on to be drafted into the NFL. And it's kind of similar to like a lot of the classes that are coming through there now. It's just that these guys are coming in now with a lot more stars behind their name, and they're a higher profile. But it was a really good class, and Coach Stock was really, really essential in putting that class together.
Do you remember how long it took you to feel comfortable at corner, to where you feel like you got it, and when that moment was?
Oh man, it took I remember that year in 2003, we started the season playing against Georgia at Clemson in the Valley when it wasn't really wasn't a good turnout for us on our end, and they kind of hit me in that game. And then the next week we played Furman, and then Furman was back then, I think they was running a little bit of that wing T, which is a little confusing to a young DB like me. So I believe they set me the next week or two, and then I finished the season. I started the rest of the season. So it took me about a good 5-6 games in, to get, to really feel like I know what I'm doing and really start to ascend. I mean, it takes time, regardless of like how much time and dedication you put in on the practice field, and you actually got to go through. You got to be in that fire, like in those games, in those moments, to really start to, dial in and home in to understand like what you're doing. So it's gonna be tough on young DB, young corners, young even rather than corners, receivers as well. Because they got to learn how to read coverages and make the right decisions based off what the coverages are. Same thing with safeties. Getting the right leverage. Is it certain people just able to pick it up a little faster than others? But for me, it took a good about 4 or 5 games to really get comfortable in there.
One thing that's really surprising is I don't think there's been a true freshman corner under Dabo his whole tenure who has started. I think Mackenzie Alexander was in line to start in 14 or one of those years, maybe 13, but then he got hurt. But it seems like conventionally we think, okay, it's really hard for these positions like offensive line. Man, it's hard to play as a true freshman offensive lineman or quarterback. You don't think corner. You just think, oh, these are athletes, kind of like receiver. With a receiver, you just find a way to get him the ball and go let him do work. But it's something that Wes Goodwin has said recently sort of resonates. He says the farther you are from the line of scrimmage or away from the ball, the more lapses in technique are magnified because that can really get you torched.
Yes, because technique is everything on that back end. Technique, route recognition, formation recognition. It's just a lot that goes in, and then you're talking about you got to do this now within like a matter of like 2 seconds. You know what I mean? You don't have a lot of time. Everybody's quick, no huddle, right? They just lining up and they running from side to side. You got to do a lot of processing in a short amount of time. And when you think back on it, that make a lot of sense because you don't see a lot of guys coming in. You can work them in. I think you start to see them be worked in, as the season go or as games go. But it is kind of hard for a lot of guys, even with the advancement of high school football. These guys that are coming in 5-star or whoever you say that are really, really good. Well, they're not really seeing 5-star receivers every week, right?
Yeah.
And these guys that are in college, they are already polished. A lot of them are polished. They've been there, regardless of what the stars behind them. I don't even believe in stars, to be honest with you. It's all about the work. With these guys that are already there, you still got to learn the speed of the game. You still got to learn the game. And then you got to be good with your technique and be disciplined inside each play, So it makes a lot of sense. I think for Clemson, though, what they always try to do is try to get young guys in the game so that they can use them because they recognize, like me, I was an Iron Man. I hated coming out of the game. Like I did not come out of games when I was at Clemson. I think if you can go back, it was a long, long time ago now, but I didn't come out of games until the games were done, because I just wanted to play. I like to get in the rhythm, and I couldn't have my rhythm interfere with. And I remember Coach Lovett. I know when Vic Koenig came in, when Coach Lovett left, we had a little thing about that. I was just like, okay, you gotta let. I believe it was like Sergio, because I remember the young kids like Sergio and Sergio Gillum and what was his name? But a lot of the young corners, they used to get mad at me because they couldn't get in the game until I was ready to come out.
Didn't they call you? Didn't Koenig call you his teacher's pet or something? Was that you?
Probably was. But I remember he couldn't stand it. He was like, okay, Ty, you got to come out. I was like, nah, I ain't coming out right now. This is in the middle of the game, bro. Like, I believe it was like in the second, third quarter. I was like, this game ain't over yet. We get in the fourth quarter, we win, and then I'll come out.
What's wild is, you've had a window since your playing days of the revolutionary changes in offensive football. Mm-hmm. Like, you say, yeah, you should, play man all the time, but sometimes they have to play zone with all these mobile quarterbacks. You got to keep your eyes on them, and it's like it's so complicated. In your time, it was more like I formation and conventional stuff, whereas now it's just, wow, man, all the different personnel groupings and spreading from sideline to sideline and the freakish quarterbacks, and now freakish tight ends with the kid at Georgia, just amazing. How what do you make of how much offensive football has changed over the years?
Well, it definitely changed from a schematic standpoint because they're running a lot more. They're running a lot more RPO games.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing that has changed the game since I left. A lot of the formations, some formational changes, but a lot more principles have changed because now they're reading. You're trying to get the quarterbacks now to read more, right? So, like you just said, which was a great point, is you got to pick and choose your spots of when you're doing man coverage because if you got a mobile quarterback, let's say, let's go back to Lamar Jackson those days, right? He will burn you up if you see your backs turn, So you really got to pick and choose those spots, and you got to really be good with personnel groupings, understanding like what people are doing. I believe when I was playing, like I told somebody, like when I left college, and I thought I was a student of the game when I was in school. When I really did think that. And then when I got to the NFL, I realized, like, man, it was so much more that I didn't know that I know now. I was like, man, if I go back to college, because back then when college, it was 1, 2, maybe 4 plays per formation, per down that a team probably was running based on down and distance, Now it's a lot more RPO. It's really what you're doing and really what they're doing. Like, getting matchups, personnel grouping wise, to take over, to challenge what you're doing on defense, to be honest. So a lot has changed. It's a lot more mobile guys, right? You're getting more mobile guys that are playing. We probably would play maybe 2, 3 mobile guys a year, possibly, Now, almost every game, you got a guy that can, that can do something different. Like, I think, the craziest offense I've seen today is really truly been that Wake Forest offense. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't even believe I just couldn't believe that thing was actually working on us when you talking about our front, because I've been up to a practice like when we had the alumni cookout, and I'm looking at this D-line. And I'm like, man, these guys are massive and big and fast and, they can move. But for some reason, they were having a lot of success on just doing that mess, pulling the ball out. I couldn't believe it. But it's schematically, like, different. It's a new day, and as the game as time goes, the game go evolve. So it's going to always be different things. And but yeah, it's definitely different today, But one thing else I can say is it's starting a lot more in these high schools because a lot of these kids they're getting specialty training early, young, and they're coming in. Some of them, the ones that are going to good high schools, or the ones that are taking down the coaching that they're getting personally and being able to apply it to their game, which in return is helping them get on the field faster, So they're actually, when they get to college, like they're actually developing faster, And so that's another thing that I've seen a big thing in,
It's really interesting, like thinking like over the last decade or so with offenses, like, 10, 12, 14 years ago, the zone read, where they just, you're reading the edge player and figuring out whether to give or keep. That was like new and funky. Well, and then Auburn starts reading like the outside, like the cornerback, and so if the corner comes up, then you just dump it over his head to the wide open receiver. And then I'm so glad you mentioned Wake, because in addition to the just totally bizarre sight of a quarterback and a running back walking toward the line of scrimmage. It's so
crazy.
Weird. But he's reading the safety. Like he's figuring out what the safety's gonna do. And then making the decision off of that. So it's gone from like first level, defensive end reads to cornerback reads to second level reads to now third level. Like the back end is being optioned off of as a quarterback, at least in Wake's system, decides what to do, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, that is pretty wild because I just, like you said, the quarterback walking into the line, holding it, and still have an opportunity to get the ball off is to me it blows my mind every time I see it. And of course, I started paying a little more attention to it last year, but I couldn't believe that that's a thing now. I don't see nobody else in college football running that offense like that, but.
It's kind of a gimmick, but it really works for them.
It works.
So, all right, I want to get your expert opinion here because I know my novice conclusions from last Saturday. My dominant takeaway in watching the corners was very simple. Turn your head around and just look at the ball, and you don't draw those penalties. Am I right?
Yeah, but that starts in practice because you got to be in phase.
Right? But they were in phase a lot of the time, though, weren't they?
Yeah, but I think they were really so. When you press bailing or when you are one thing, you can lose sight of what you're supposed to be doing. You got to remember the quarterback is throwing the ball to the receiver. He's throwing to where he's going to be, not where you're going to be. So you got to really home in to like what you're doing. So if you press bail, you got to really bail, get out of there because sometimes you can kind of get laxed in your bail. So now you're thinking the ball is coming to you, but it's actually going above your head, But yes, you got to be in phase. I think that's why I said earlier, you got to get out there, get a lot of deep balls thrown at you. You got to get a lot of, and I hope they're doing that a lot in practice because they are going to get that now. Like they're going to get a lot of people that's going to challenge them downfield, and he should get it. And to me, I think that benefits us more, when that's coming, right? But yeah, you got to get your head around. You got to be in position. Then you got to play the ball, but you got to play the ball. I think that's the hardest thing for some DBs, is playing the ball. They lose sight of when to get in phase, and it's easier said than done. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
you gotta know, and then you gotta know where you're at on the field. You gotta be aware of your surroundings. And for our boys, I just think getting a lot of deep balls thrown. And I think I seen a comment Dabo said we're gonna get a lot of deep balls, and well. You know what you got to do in practice? Make sure they're getting a lot of deep balls thrown at them, right? Being able to play the receiver and play the ball in the air at the same time, because that's really where it's done at. You really judge a corner based on how he plays the ball when the ball is in the air, like how comfortable a cornerback is with the ball in the air being thrown at him. And you could tell based on the technique of how they play the ball, and how they playing the receiver. And the position that they're in, being in phase, being out of phase. But yeah, it's definitely easier said than done.
I went back and looked at last year's Wake Forest game a couple of days ago, and something really interesting. Obviously Clemson controlled the line of scrimmage a lot more last year. Wake wasn't able to do that slow mesh thing,
right?
But another thing that happened, there were times last year, a number of times where Hartman did have enough time to get the ball off, but the corners, meaning Andrew Booth, Mario Goodrich, even Nate Wiggins, had some big-time pass breakups, and there was so much contact on each occasion, but since they turned their heads, the flags were not thrown, and it seems like you can pretty much do whatever you want to do physically, contact-wise, as long as you're looking at the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in college, you can be as physical as you want to be until the ball's in the air.
Right. But even
once that ball in the air, you got to be in phase at that point.
Yeah. But it just seems like so many times this past Saturday, there was lots of contact and lots of hand fighting. But also that when that's accompanied by them not turning their heads, then it's going to draw a flag every time. Versus last year, it's like it was like a wrestling match out there when the ball was in the air, but you saw Andrew Booth turning around and at least pretending to make a play on the ball. But interesting stuff. When you watch as a secondary focused person, are you able to see everything you want to see on a TV broadcast? Because a lot of the time the safeties are out of the frame. Do you find yourself saying, man, I wish I could get a wider angle when you're trying to diagnose things and watch the game from home?
Well, I can kind of tell, like, based off like the formation, I can tell like what coverage we're in based on whether we 2 deep, whether we 3 deep. I mean, whether we 2 deep, one single high. Based on the cornerback technique, I can kind of tell like what we're in. You know, it's actually, for me, I actually like watching it from home because I'm able to like stop it.
Yeah.
You know, and rewind and see what happened. You know, whether, you know, when you're there in live, you can't really see everything because you watching everything. You know, you got to really be focused on like the play of like, or you got to really just be watching that one position. But I like watching it at home, or I'll record it so I can go back and look at it and see what's going on, even from a schematical perspective of like, what is they thinking, or like, why are we doing this? You know, I like watching it from the TV copy. Now, if I get the game copy, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Now I can see the wide angle, I can see the side, I can see. You know? Yeah. Yeah. But then I really could break it down. But yeah, you can kind of tell sometimes. You know, of course, you can't really see the technique sometimes from the safety standpoint. But yeah, when I'm watching these games, I'm 100% really watching what we're doing on the back end. I'm looking at the formations, and I'm looking at like how are we adjusting to the formation, what we playing, what coverages. Are we playing man? Are we playing zone? All right. Are we playing a match zone? Like, all right, where are the holes at? You know, and then I'm looking at it, just looking at the play call.
If you're, and I'm not trying to get you to question Wes Goodwin or anything, but I'm just curious. When you go into a game like that, you know you're missing Sheridan Jones. You know you're missing Malcolm Green. You know you're missing Andrew Makuba, who can also play corner in a pinch. Do you do more schematically to give more help more often to those young corners, instead of playing the safeties more up and having them more focused on that mesh? Did you? I mean, he did go to give him more help in the second half, but I'm just curious what you were thinking at the time. Like, okay, hey, we might need to give these guys a little more help with the safeties.
So, you know, like I said, man, you know, I was brought up the rough way. Now, in the beginning, you know, they did hide me, you know,
right?
But I like the fact that, you know, it's supposed to be harder to throw the ball. You know, you can't make it easy for them to run the ball on, you know. And if I can go into games, I probably would put my corners out there as well. You know? Yeah. Because, like, I mean, that's the easiest thing, you know. And then you want them to grow. You want them to grow. I love the fact that you're giving them opportunity, that you believe in, that they can go out here and play. Now, we were missing a lot of guys. And you can look at it from a different perspective, but I love the fact that I think we're gonna get a much better Nate Wiggins now, right? Because I looked at his video of his interview, and he don't want to have another game like that.
Yeah,
right. But that's also like wake up the guy on the left side. Like, okay, hey, we're gonna get some deep balls here, right? And I think with the more versatility from our corners, it's really going to help the whole defense, right? If you know you can go play man coverage, right? And now we can just take away the run, right? Or, you know, man up, right? Or now we can scheme it, right? We can play a little cover 2, a little cover 3, play some 4, play some split coverages or what have you, wear some fire zones, and you know that your guys on the back end are gonna hold up. I think that's gonna provide more. That's gonna provide more coverage for Clemson, because I think in the past, don't get me wrong, we've had some really great players there, and I think Venables was a great defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong on that, but I think sometimes we kind of got caught up playing a little too much zone, and it kind of like made our corners a little lackadaisical on the back end. And as a result, we wasn't winning these one-on-one matches when we got him. Now, when we played LSU in the national championship, it comes to show, Justin Jefferson and what's the kid name? That went Cincinnati.
Yeah, for the Bengals.
Like those were some exceptional guys. There was some exceptional guys, but we had some guys too that were really, really good, like an Andrew Booth, who I thought he was really good, but very up and down at times. Great athlete. Or even it's a lot. It's a lot of that can go on and on. Like even De'Aaron Kendrick, like he was a great athlete, but sometimes goes up and down, right? But if you're getting these guys now, you're getting them tuned in right now, like, and I know you can't play a lot of man. You got to really mix it up. But from these early games, that's what I've been impressed with, is that like you getting these kids to grow up right now. You're giving them an opportunity to compete, right? And in return, I think that's gonna I think in long term it's gonna really help us long term, because now you're getting the best out of everybody. Because before it was putting a lot of stress on the D line, which we love our D lines at Clemson. We've always had pretty good D lines there, but you put a lot on the linebackers and you put a lot on the safeties, right? But now we're putting it on everybody.
If you're in the Eastern Midlands and PD area and you're in any way interested in buying and selling a home, commercial property, land, need to consider reaching out to Uptown Realty. They're based out of Sumter and run by a friend of mine, Patrick Enzer, big Clemson guy, used to cover the Tigers in a newspaper capacity, longtime supporter of Tiger Illustrated, longtime listener to the Dubcast. The home buying process should be an enjoyable experience, so let Patrick and his staff do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 803-774-0435 or go to uptownrealtysc.com. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union. If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Matt Gross is a proud Clemson alum and the vice president for the Clemson market for Founders Federal Credit Union. Matt's office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. I was going to switch sides, look over to the offense. I guess the last time we talked, last spring, summer, the big question everybody had was, can DJ throw a forward pass? Well, it turns out he can. What do you think about this, man?
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it because we go as DJ go.
Yeah.
And if our defense, which we know what our defense is, if you got a guy that can drive the car, I mean, how many touchdown passes did he throw the other day? I think he threw like 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
And the 2-point conversion included, I guess.
Yeah, threw for over 300 yards. 4, was it 4? Something like that.
It was 3-something, I think.
3-something. I think that just bodes well for us. I think I'm happy for him, because I know it's not easy being the quarterback at Clemson, right? And then on top of that, being the quarterback of one of these teams and coming behind guys like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, which you already got a ready-made team. This team is ready to go, and you could be, the one that put us over the top. So I'm very pleased. I'm very proud to see that he's been playing. Obviously, he's been working really hard, right? He's been working. You can see he's slimmer, like the reports have been saying, which in return, last year he was hurt. So maybe that knee injury really really played a big part. And I think he had like something with his hand as well. So this year he's healthy, right? And he's slimmer, right? He's locked in. It seems like the outside noise ain't really affect him, you know. So it looks great. It looks great. I think we poised for some great things, and it starts Saturday night because North Carolina State. I know we should have blood in our mouth, ready to slobbering to get back at these guys. You know, so this is one of them games. If you ain't up for this game, I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you, man. You got to be ready to go. They beat you at home last year. Now they coming to our house now. You know.
It's amazing.
And it's a lot on the line.
Yeah, it's amazing watching DJ just what confidence can do to a player's whole persona on the field.
Yes. Confidence is, if you got confidence in you, I'm telling you, you can do whatever. But if you ain't confident, and that means confident in the play call, confident in yourself, confident in your abilities, confident that you can make these throws, being smart when you know when to dig and dump. I mean, it plays a major part, a major factor in who you are and what you can do. Most definitely.
Tell me what Tye.
I'm seeing him now. I've seen him. His pocket presence is so much better this year than it was last year. You know, I don't know if he's more confident in the offensive line, right? I don't know if it's because he's healthier. Either way, he looks it's night and day compared from last year to this year.
I mean, that 2-point conversion when he's on one leg, he's got the linebacker holding his other leg. He's still looking downfield, like he's still looking like going through his progression, looking for an open guy and firing. Like he's not spooked like he was last year. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, but I'm happy for him though. I'm happy for him because, you know, that puts him back like where we all thought on who we thought we had, right? And it does, and for him, it gives him the confidence, right? To go in these games, you know, and not be worried about one guy. Like he's literally like scanning the field. Like you can tell like he's paying, you know, it's much more attention to detail this year than what it was last year. But again, I don't know, maybe it was he was hurt last year, right? Versus him being healthy this year. And like you said, the biggest thing is the confidence piece.
What is Tye Hill's daily life like right now? What are you doing? You're in the Atlanta area, right? Is it Cartersville?
No, I'm actually in Gwinnett. I'm over here in Lawrenceville. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, so my daily, like I done got into IT sales. I picked that up over the summer. So I've been doing a little sales work, you know, just getting out of the house. My kid now, my son, he's in high school now. So I have a lot more free time to do things that, you know, I need to be doing out here.
So before that, you were doing a lot of coaching?
Yes, I was coaching. His football team. But I'm still trying to figure out, do I want to coach or do I want to go a different route? And as of right now, it's still up in the air for me, you know. But yeah, every day, you know, I partnered with a company called Reach Technologies, and they're giving me an opportunity to get my salesman experience in. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of months.
What does that look like? What do you do?
So I'm in the office every day from like 8:00, and then from about 9, I leave, and then I'm pretty much out cold calling, visiting businesses, selling products for his printers, toners, office furniture, office supplies, things of that nature. And it's been interesting to say, you know what I mean? It's been pretty interesting.
You said you're trying to figure out whether you want to get into coaching. What are the pros and cons of that?
Well, the pros and cons to it is time, right? I wanted to make sure I wanted to be around for my kids. I wanted to make sure I got them on the right track, meaning, and I didn't want to miss anything of any of their, their games or, track meets and things of that nature. So that's what I was talking about. But I'm also trying to figure out like what level of coaching would I do? I love coaching the youth, but I don't think I'll probably be coaching no pee-wee ball, no more things of that nature. And the reason being for that, I want to be more concentrated. So maybe thinking about high school. This year I didn't want to coach this year because I had an opportunity to coach at my son's high school, and he goes to Peachtree Ridge High. They got a new coaching staff over there, and they was going to bring me along on there. But I wanted him to be able to go without me. I wanted him to hear another voice, so that he could see that the things that I was telling him is the things you need to be doing, right? I think when I had coached him for so long that I believe sometimes you can get tone deaf, or you thinking like, yeah, because my son, he's a very, very gifted athlete, and sometimes you can just rely on that gift and relying on the work. And I wanted him to see like this is what football really is, and if you're gonna get whatever you're gonna get out of it, what you put into it, and that's with anything in life. But I just, I wanted him to make sure he's getting, because I know football don't change. I don't care where you play, right? It's the same elements that's in the game is gonna always be there. You got some people are gifted to not see some of the diversity, not diversity, but some of the pitfalls until probably later, right? But and what I mean later, some people don't experience until they get to college, right? But it comes, and being able to be coachable and be coached by different people, and being able to respond to the coaching and being able to go and perform is something I've been trying to teach my son, and not just my son, but all the kids that I've coached, because you're going to have different type of coaches. No matter, you're going to have some that yell a lot, and you're going to have some that don't yell at all. And then you got some that are just very even keel, right? But you still got to be able to respond to coaching. You still got to be able to go out and perform and just have fun, And my son, he's been afforded the opportunity to play basically for JV, varsity, and ninth grade. He's played. He got his first touchdown in ninth grade and on the varsity. He hasn't scored on JV or ninth grade yet.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's been interesting being in the stands versus being on the sideline, right? So it's been unique.
I keep in fairly good contact with two of your former teammates, Charlie Whitehurst and Dustin Fry, and it's been really interesting hearing them sort of adapt to their sort of post-football lives, whereas Charlie's like, man, all that time I was thinking I would just love the time off, but he's like, he's playing golf every day, and he's like, is this it? Like, I'm kind of getting bored with just playing golf. And then Dustin Fry, he saw sort of the meat grinder of college coaching. They got fired at Arkansas, and now he's like, man, I don't know if I want anything to do with college coaching anymore. He's enjoying his family up in the hills of North Carolina, and he's going and just enjoying regular relationships and regular daily life. I'm curious what that transition was like for you, and how in post football, when you spent your whole life competing, I mean, you're defined by competition and winning and performing at the highest level. Is it hard to find something that sort of satisfies that area, those juices, if that makes any sense?
It definitely is. It definitely is, because it's two sides of the spectrum, right? And then you try to find that median And it's like, you want to go play golf every day, right? Do you want to be coaching? Do you want your time? So do you want all your time, or do you want all your time taken away from you, right? But you also want to find that competition. I think that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm kind of like, I'm right there, right? I've done been a franchisee for Golden Corral, where most of my time was taken up doing that. But it wasn't my passion to be in the restaurant business, right? So then I'm thinking about, I want to go coach, but then I know I don't want to miss the important moments in my kids' lives of when, they're competing, and I don't want to miss those things. So it's really, for me, I'm still trying to find that balance, and also trying to find something that's satisfactory, or from the competition perspective, or that get my juices going, just like how when I play college football or when I play in the pros, So yeah, it's you spend so much time, and you become trained in robotic. As far as you really become like like you in the military.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you get kind of lost when you have all this time. Then you realize I don't want all my time taken away. But
yeah.
I definitely want to still have some fulfillment to where I wake up in the morning and I'm ready to hit the ground running, because something is motivating me to get out of bed to do something, and that's what I'm still looking for, to be honest with you. So that's why I was like, well, let me try IT sales, because like the NFL affords us second career opportunities. And I never got an opportunity to do what I wanted to do because when I got out of the NFL, it was more so I did what I had to do, and that was go run my restaurants. But then when I got out of doing that, and I was like, well, now what am I going to do? Like, what do I want to do? And I still love the game of football. I think that's more one of the reasons why. Well, for one, I wanted to make sure I got my son off on the right track, and his friends as well was going to take a village with me. But I also wanted to like find something that's fulfilling, right? And that was fun doing that. It was a lot. We should have had a doggone. I tell my coaches this all the time that I coached with this past couple of years. I was like, this last year, man, we should have had doggone Netflix. We should have had a video camera around with this thing, because it was a really, really good team. And I'm telling you, I got a lot of kids that was on my son's team, him included. I probably had, it sounds crazy, but I had probably at least 14 or 15 of those kids are probably going to be D1 guys.
Goodness.
And as of right now, 8 of them got D1 scholarships.
Wow.
And they had these scholarships going into 9th grade. They haven't played a high school down, and they're the top kids here in Georgia. We had that type of talent. We went over here and we set the model of like how to do things. Went 46-0, never lost a game in our county. Wow. Which is the GFL, which is considered one of the best football conferences, youth football leagues in the country. And of course, our high school league over here is considered the best high school football in the country, 7A ball. You're talking about the Graysons, you're talking about the Bufords, you're talking about North Gwinnett, the Norcrosses. These are where my kids are, kind of the Collins Hills. This is where we're at. And so it was very important to me that we made sure we got these kids off on the right foot going into high school. And it paid off for a lot of them, because most of them, the ones that I'm talking about, are all playing as freshmen on these powerhouse high school teams.
Yeah.
My son included. So it's been fun, man. It's really been fun. But it's gonna be really interesting to watch him grow for these next 4 years. Hopefully my son will be, and not only him, a lot of his teammates that he had be up there, be running down the hill.
What told you that the restaurant business wasn't it? When did that moment come, and what was it?
Well, I think it was never something I wanted to do. It was always something I wanted to do passive. I wanted to have passive income off that. Then I realized it wasn't a type of investment you could be passive on, right? Because it's your restaurant, it's your business, and this thing is fluid. Things are moving. There's a lot of moving parts every day, and that just wasn't something I was really passionate about being in every day, you know. And of course, I did it because I was, you know, I wanted to compete and I wanted to be good at what I was doing, but that was just not something I wanted to do. I just didn't have a passion for it, right? And so, yeah, that's what led me to that, you know. And I learned that pretty early on when I had to, every day I'm getting in this car and I'm got to run down to South Georgia or I got to run to Alabama, you know, to tend to these stores because I spent a lot of time in the car. And if you guys, I know everybody know about Atlanta traffic.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah.
And this traffic coming back into the city is no joke, coming in from the McDonough side, coming from Macon. Sometimes it would take me 3 hours just to get home, and it would take me, you know, and I'm telling you, it's probably 2 hours in traffic, an hour and 40, hour and 30 just in traffic, 2 hours sometimes, you know. So that along with, you know, not having the passion to do that, you know, was really when it was like, okay, it's time to do something else.
Tye Hill, man, you've given me an hour of your time. I really, really appreciate it, man. Your cornerback expertise, awesome, and everything else was too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So Tye informed me that he's thinking about taking up his own podcast. I think he would do a killer job at it. Thanks to Tye for joining us. First class now, just as he was back in the early 2000s when both of us were a lot younger. Appreciate the support of our very loyal sponsors for helping make this happen. And most of all, thanks to every one of you for hitting that play button every week. Cheers.